This is going to be the first of this type of thing that I'm going to do where after I beat a game, I normally give my review of that game and my general impressions of it. And I'm still going to do that. It's just now I'm going to do that in a format that I will upload to YouTube. So that way I can have some semblance of content over on the YouTube as well. So hello, YouTube. And future viewers. We have just finished the Outer Worlds. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at how long it took me. It took me about 1 day, 15 hours, 8 minutes, minus about an hour from that time because there was about an hour of being AFK. So overall it took me an hour, or a day and 14 hours, we'll say, to beat the game. And the first thing that I will say is, this will be spoiler free. I'm not going to get into spoilers just because I want anybody that hasn't played the game yet to be able to watch this as well. But a lot of people have been complaining that this game is not long enough, or they've been saying that it's really short. There's some people that have beaten this game in like 10 hours, and they're like, man, this game is so short. It's only like 10 hours long. Definitely not worth your money. One thing that I will say is that if you beat this game in 10 hours, like, you're speedrunning the game. You're literally just doing main quests. There's no way that you are picking up all of the companions. There's no way you're doing the companion quests. There's no way you're doing the side quests. There's no way you're doing the tasks. There's no way you're exploring the worlds that you go to. And you're not getting the full experience of the game. In fact, you're getting nowhere close to the full experience of the game, if I'm being entirely honest. So that's one thing that I would state, is that if you're worried about playtime, and I know, I do play through games kind of slow, mostly because I do go on, you know, tangents and stuff like that, talking with viewers, but also just because I like to read a lot of the lore and a lot of the logs and stuff like that. And I do encourage you to do that with this game. The writing is top notch, especially just like in the lore and the logs that you find. It's actually very good, very interesting, and it gives you a lot of information that you don't actually get if you're just playing through the game normally. Or you're just running through, not reading any of this stuff. But let me give it a score, and then I will explain the score. I think that this game is a solid, after one playthrough, okay? After my just initial playthrough, I think this game is a solid 9.5 out of 10. This is one of the best games I've played in a very, very long time. It is everything that I wanted out of an Obsidian first-person RPG. It's everything that I wanted from Fallout 4 that Fallout 4 did not give me. It is everything that I have craved out of this genre that has unfortunately been extremely lackluster over the past couple years. It is everything that I wanted it to be. 9.5 out of 10. This is a serious contender. It's most definitely in my top 2 or top 3 games of 2019, but it is a serious contender for Game of the Year of 2019 for me. I would say if you are a fan of in-depth, narrative-based RPGs, decision-based games with a lot of dialogue, then this is right up your alley. It is one of the best that the genre has to offer, and it is the best that the genre has had to offer in many, many years. Solidly recommend you to pick up this game. And the fact that you can pick this up with Xbox Game Pass, if you have a PC on Windows 10, if not, you can just upgrade your PC to Windows 10. It's still free to do that. You can upgrade your PC to Windows 10. You can spend $1 currently and get 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is an insane deal. On top of that, you get 3 months of Nitro, you get 6 months of Spotify Premium. It's just a crazy ass deal that's going on right now. But even if you're paying $5 a month for Game Pass, or $15 for Ultimate, it is an insane deal to be able to get Outer Worlds just for $1, $5, or even $15. And most definitely is worthy of your money. To go into the specifics now, if you just wanted the TLDR, there you go. 9.5 out of 10. Solid video game. Let me get into the specifics though. First things first, I'm gonna hit up the graphics. The graphics were surprisingly good. When I saw pre-game stuff, I was like, okay, this has a sort of like Dishonored aesthetic to it. And it does definitely have a Dishonored aesthetic. This game borrows from a lot. There's some Borderlands feelings, there's some Dishonored feelings, especially in like the world building and the lore and the aesthetic. But there's also, you know, some Fallout stuff when it comes to like those decisions in the dialogue system. And all in all, I'd say the graphics are quite good. Performance on the PC side of things does struggle on high settings or ultra settings in some of the locations, especially the cities. The performance can definitely struggle. But one thing I will say about the graphics, the faces are some of the best faces that I've seen in a game this expansive. I'm not going to say they're the best faces because you have stuff like God of War, you have stuff like Detroit Become Human, where the faces are just extremely realistic because all of them are mo-capped. But for this type of game, these are the best faces that I have seen. It puts stuff like Mass Effect Andromeda and games like that to shame. The faces are surprisingly realistic. There are many small details, such as if you have your companions next to you and you're talking to somebody, if your companion on your left chimes in about something, when it cuts back to the person you're talking to, they'll actually be looking to your left, right? They'll actually be looking at that companion because they're acknowledging that that person's talking. And then they'll respond to them while looking at them, and then they'll look at you and start talking to you. It's small things like that that are really, really great. Man, this music is really popping off right now, and it's much louder for me than it is for you guys. But so graphics, I think, are definitely impressively good. I mean, sure, if you get close up and you're looking at textures, it's not going to blow you away or anything like that. The sound design actually comes into one of my very small complaints, is that sometimes you will enter an area and you would think, okay, there's going to be this music popping, and there's going to be these adverts playing, and there's a lot of people here, so there's going to be a lot of side conversations. You know, you're expecting that atmosphere, and then you enter that location, and there's not that at all. It's like eerily silent. You might hear like one side conversation or one ad going off. That is a very minor complaint, but it does still need to be stated. I think that the music, though, is fantastic. I think the dialogue, because we're, you know, talking about sound, the dialogue, the vast majority of it is excellently voice acted. I think Eddie came into the stream and he said something along the lines of like, man, this voice acting isn't very good. So maybe it is subjective, but in my opinion, if you're comparing this to like Fallout voice acting, this is leagues better than Fallout voice acting, like a million miles better, or Skyrim or any of those games. This is much better. I really like that when you're talking to characters, sometimes they'll falter a little bit when they're talking, or they'll stutter a little bit, and it adds a layer of realism, like it's actually a person talking, and it fits a lot of times their personality. On top of that, the game being well voice acted, we can go into dialogue. I think the dialogue is phenomenal. The writing in this game is the charm of this game. It is the beauty of this game. It is what makes this game a 9.5 out of 10. If it was not for the writing, if you had some imbeciles, some absolute mongoloids like the people over at Bethesda writing this game would easily be 7, maybe even a 6 out of 10. The writing carries this game on its back. It is so witty. It is so clever. It is a wonderful take of satire on corporate America and just the corporate world as a whole, as this possible dystopian future where corporations really do rule people, and you have these fanboys that are just so connected and so aligned with a company, they're willing to even fight for it. They're stating their slogans. The slogans themselves, you just get caught in your head because they're actually really good. For each of the 9 big corporations in the game, the writing is phenomenal. It is the best that I have seen in a very long time. The dialogue feels realistic. The choices that your character can make and say, they feel realistic. People respond to what you say in a realistic way. It is all phenomenal. The dialogue is hands down the best thing about this game. Speaking of dialogue, that inherently leads to the choices. we're not talking spoilers here, but I already have minimum of 3 playstyles that I want to go through and different choices I want to make, and 3 completely new playthroughs that I want to do, where I make different decisions or I say different things and I see how that impacts the story. And I have talked to people who have played the game and watched videos of people who've played the game, and completely different things have happened to them because they made these different decisions than I did. So I'm super excited to replay the game, make different decisions, because this isn't a Telltale Games thing where you're making all of these decisions and they're like, oh, blah blah will remember that, and then nothing ever happens with it. This game, your decisions actually matter. They actually impact relationships that you have, not only with people, but with corporations, how those corporations are going to see you going forward. People will reference things that you did, how you handled situations, and that will that will help shape their view of you as a person, whether they're going to help you or not. And it is wonderful. One thing I will say though, is that when you get your speech skills, there's not a lot of really high speech checks in the game, and as a result, you can basically just coax through with like a 50 speech and everything, and until like the very end game, and just speech check everything through, if that's how you want to play. That's personally how I wanted to play. I always play like a high charisma, or it's called charm in this game, high charm, high speech character. And to my surprise, you can fairly easily talk your way out of a lot of situations. But a beautiful thing is, it's not just you do a speech check and then the person's not like, okay, I'm never helping you. And then you have, 70 persuade and you're like, but you promised you'd help me. And then they go, oh, okay, you're right, I'll help you. It's not like that. It's done in a very realistic way of you saying, listen, you gave me your word, and they go, I get that, but I still don't trust this corporation. This is just a hypothetical, by the way. I still don't trust this corporation. Even if I gave you my word, I'm not going to be able to do that. And then you'll be prompted to say something else to try and convince them, like, I understand how you feel about this corporation, but I guarantee you they're not going to, treat you like this. Like, have a little bit of faith in me, I'll help you out. And then they'll be like, fine, I'll do it. There's a back and forth. It's not just, oh, I patched this speech check and now they're gonna do something completely against their character. It never feels like that. If it is something against their character, you have to work for it. You have to build a relationship with them in order for them to, go the way that you want them to. And once again, just a testament to how fantastic the writing for this game is. When we come into where I really thought the game was going to struggle and be bad, it was the combat. I really thought the combat was going to be bad, especially when you're watching pre-release footage, or you're hearing people talk about it. They're like, listen, the world is good, the characters are good, but the dialogue is good, but the combat is ass. And I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised with the combat in the game. I played on hard mode, which does inherently make enemies more tanky, but I didn't really have an issue killing enemies in this game. I really didn't, and I didn't even spec a lot into weapon skills. I went almost full dialogue, but I did not have an issue murdering things that needed to be murdered, and the combat actually felt pretty good. The utilization of the tactical time dilation, the TTD, which is sort of a weird VATS, but not really, is done very well. You can choose to slow down time and then pick different parts of the body to shoot, and that will have different effects. Those effects not only depend on your weapon. One weapon, it may knock somebody down. One weapon, it may do an execute, which does a ton of damage. One weapon may stagger somebody. So not only do you have that built into the weapon, but there's also benefits that all weapons can get. If you shoot somebody in the arm, you're going to maim them. This is going to severely reduce the damage that they do. If you shoot them in the head, it's going to blind them. It's going to decrease their accuracy when they're hitting you. If you shoot them in the leg, it's going to cripple them, which is going to severely hamper their movement speed. If you shoot them in the dick, it's going to weaken them, which is going to make them take more elemental damage. If you shoot them in the chest, that's where you get your weapon-specific effect. All in all, I think the tactical time dilation definitely does add as silly as it sounds, a little bit of tactics to the actual combat. You're not just going in and shooting stuff. You're saying, okay, well, this enemy is fast, so I'm gonna shoot him in the leg and cripple them. This enemy is a sniper, so I'm going to shoot them in the head, and I'm going to, you know, blind them, reduce their accuracy. This enemy is going to get to me and beat my ass no matter what, so I'm going to shoot it in its arm, maim it, and severely reduce the damage that it's going to do. You know, there's a lot of very interesting things at play that you can do with the tactical time dilation, and it leads to the combat feeling a lot better than just, you know, mindlessly shooting at stuff, and the damage numbers pop up and the health bar slowly goes down, Borderlands style. There's a lot more substance to the combat, and I really like that. And I really like how the different weapons have different effects, as well as how each enemy is going to react differently depending on what element you're using, and the modification of the weapons and inherently adding, you know, different elements to them is going to drastically increase your effectiveness in combat. So you do have to, you know, tactically plan out, well, I'm going against a robot here, or an auto-mechanical as they call it. Maybe I should use a shock weapon because that's going to do extra damage to this robot, and it's going to short circuit it. It's going to, you know, possibly CC it and reduce its effectiveness in combat. Or this enemy is just it's just like a dog type enemy with no armor or anything, but it's very quick to get to me. I'm gonna use plasma because that's really good against flesh, but suffers quite a bit when it comes to armor. You know, there's a lot more mechanics that go into the combat than, say, your Fallouts or your Borderlands or anything like that. And I was pleasantly surprised with the combat. I enjoyed it for the total of my, you know, 1 day and 15 hours of playtime. All in all, I'm just very happy with the game. I think it is a solid video game. It is everything that I wanted out of it. The only reason I'm minusing 0.5 points from it is those audio issues. It can really break your immersion when it happens. On top of that, there's a couple little things, like I wish I had the ability to scrap a weapon when it's on the floor, or a piece of armor. I have to pick it up and then scrap it. I don't really like the Tinker system, which is you spend money in order to upgrade the damage on your weapons. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I like my damage increasing just by me getting more proficient with the weapon. That's not how it works in this game. It doesn't do that Fallout type of linear scaling, depending on your skill. One thing I will say though is that there are a lot of skills that, and your level cap is 30, and you're gonna hit the level cap at the very end of the game, assuming that you do everything, which I did end up hitting right at the end of the game. But when you hit 30, there are many skills that are not going to be maxed out. It is impossible to max out all of the skills, and you're probably only going to have like 3, maybe 4 skills entirely maxed out, which is good in my opinion. I don't like becoming the jack of all trades that you do in, say, a Fallout 3. I like to be able to specialize in one thing, be very good at that, and then be like, hey, if I want to do this thing, I need to play the game again and play it, you know, as a different character. That gives the game replayability, so you don't feel like you can just do everything and do it extremely proficiently. So a lot of skill choices. Another negative though, another reason I'm minusing the 0.5 is the perks are quite lazily done. Not a fan of how they do it. The perks are the same no matter what your character is going to be, and there are just some that are better than others, but they're just flat bonuses. They're quite boring, if I'm being entirely honest, so I'm not a fan of how perks were done in this game when compared to the quirkiness and interestingness of like a Fallout game. As well as, I am personally disappointed in the amount of conversations and stuff like that you can do with companions. It feels like they do a little bit of Mass Effect stuff where you'll come back to your ship and it's like, oh, these two members are having a conversation, and you can walk over that part of your ship and you can see them having that conversation, but you can't comment on it, you can't talk to them and enter that conversation and be a part of it like you can with a Mass Effect, where if anything is going on, you can talk to that person and you're gonna have unique dialogue based on the situation that's going on. As well as just the companions, some of them are worse than others. There's one guy in particular that kind of just like shows up. He's like, hey, make me part of your crew. And I'm like, I don't even know you, dude. Like, you're not even part of the story. You just saw a ship and you want to take me on. And I took him on, and I was optimistic that maybe he would become an interesting character, and that never really happened. Even after doing his companion side quest, he just still wasn't interesting. There's also a robot character that can be your companion that I don't even know why they are in the game. They have absolutely no dialogue or quests or anything like that, so I don't know why they are even in the game. But overall, it is a near perfect experience. A very small amount of bugs that were experienced, just a few, but all in all, compared to a Bethesda game or something like that, this game is practically bug-free. Other than, like I said, performance can definitely vary in some of the locations, but that's about it for The Outer Worlds. Solid 9.5 out of 10. I thoroughly recommend it to anybody. I recommend you pick up Game Pass for $1 and you just play through the game. You literally have nothing to lose. If you're on console, if you're on PlayStation, I should say, pick it up. If you're on Switch, apparently it's coming to Switch, which is pretty awesome, so pick it up on Switch, assuming it doesn't run like garbage. But if you have the chance to play this game, play it. It is most certainly one of the best games to come out in all of 2019. Assuming you like your dialogue-heavy, choice-based adventure games. And there is a lot of room for replayability, let me tell you that. So, anybody that beat this thing in 10 hours, I don't know what the hell you were doing. You're out of your mind. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see all of you in the next video for Stream Maroney. Bye-bye.